Hola, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Damien Knight. ¿Tú hablo español? Well, if not, hopefully we can help. Bienvenidos. Welcome to our channel. Today I'm going to start with reading from the Spanish for Dummies book, Chapter 1. We will post readings from the book, Duolingo assignments, and even work through worksheets when and where we can. I do hope to eventually get my hands on the 10-minute-a-day workbook for Spanish, and when I do, I will add that as well. Gracias! Thank you for joining us, and let us begin. Spanish for Dummies, a reference for the rest of us, by Susan Wald. Part 1. Getting started. I know it's a popular American expression, but you just don't say hasta la vista, baby, to a nun. Chapter 1. In this part lets you get your feet wet by giving you some Spanish basics, how to pronounce words, what accents mean, and so on. We even boost your confidence by reintroducing you to some Spanish words that you probably already know. Finally, we outline the basics of Spanish grammar, what you may need to know when you work through later chapters in the book. Chapter 1, you already know a little Spanish. In this chapter, recognize the little Spanish you know. Saying it right, basic pronunciation. Using gestures. Understanding typical expressions. If you're familiar with the term Latin lover, you may not be surprised to know that Spanish is called a Romance language. But the romance we're talking about here isn't exactly the Latin lover type, unless you love to learn Latin. Spanish, as well as several other languages such as Italian, French, Romanian, and Portuguese, is a Romance language because it has its origins in the Latin of ancient Rome. Because of that common origin, Romance languages have many similarities in grammar and the way they sound. The fact that they all sound so romantic when spoken is purely a bonus. For example, casa, the word for house, is identical in looks, meaning, and sound, whether you speak Portuguese, Italian, or Spanish. The differences in the Romance languages are not terribly difficult to overcome, especially in South America. Any Spanish-speaking American can talk with a Portuguese-speaking Brazilian, and they will understand each other, even if the other person sounds a bit funny. Still, each Romance language is different from its sister languages. Spanish is a language that comes from a region of Spain called Castile. So in Spain, and some Latin American countries such as Argentina, they call the language Castellano, which means Castilian. Now, I may say some words slowly after saying it the first time, especially if it's a Spanish word. This is so you can learn to pronounce them. We shall continue. This book concentrates on the Spanish spoken in Latin America. Throughout the book, we also explore the differences in the words used in these 19 countries and mention some variations in pronunciation. Latin America consists of all of the Western Hemisphere, with the exception of Canada, the United States, and the British and French-speaking Guyanas, and a few islands in the Caribbean such as Jamaica, Haiti, and Curacao, where English, French, or Dutch are spoken. This chapter is the foundation for the other chapters in the book. Subsequent chapters in this book discuss pronunciation, gestures, and body language. We also give you a few quick phrases that show Spanish speakers you're one of their bunch. You already know some Spanish. The English language is like an ever-growing entity that, with great wisdom, absorbs what it needs from other cultures. other cultures and languages. English is also a language that is like a bouquet of flowers plucked from many different roots. One of these roots is Latin, which 2,000 years ago was spread all over Europe by the Romans and later by scholars of the Middle Ages. Because all of these live elements exist in the root of the language, you can find many correspondences between English and Spanish in the words that come from both Latin and French roots. These words can cause both delight and embarrassment. The delight comes in the words where the coincident sounds also give similar meanings. The embarrassment comes from words where the sounds and even the roots are the same, but the meanings are completely different. Among the delightful discoveries of similarities between the languages are words like soprano, soprano, pronto, pronto, right away, soon, and thousands of others that differ by just one or two letters, such as conclusión, conclusion, or composición, composition, or libertad, liberty. Give me a moment. And this is what happens, you know. One of my children called me. They are just outside. They could have just came in. All right, so we were at libertad, liberty, economía, economy, invención, invention, and presidente, president. Beware of false friends. The trouble begins in the world of words that French linguists have designated as false friends. You could trust fool's gold. You can't trust fool's gold, false friends, or all word similarities. Within the groups of false friends, you may find words that look very similar, and even have the same root, yet mean completely different things. One that comes to mind is the word actual, which has very different meanings in English and in Spanish. In English, you know that it means real, in reality, or the very one. Not so in Spanish. Actual, actual, in Spanish means present, current, belonging to this moment, this day, or this year. So, for example, when you say the actual painting in English, you're referring to the real one, the very one people are looking at or want to see. But when you say la pintura actual in Spanish, you're referring to the painting that belongs to the current time, the one that follows present-day trends, a modern painting. Another example is the adjective embarrassed, that in English means ashamed or encumbered. In Spanish, embarazada is the adjective that comes from the same root as the English word. Yet its use nowadays almost exclusively means pregnant. So you could say in English that you're a little embarrassed, but in Spanish, you can't be just a little embarazada. Either you're pregnant or you're not. Recognize some crossover influence. Word trouble ends at the point where a word originating in English is absorbed into Spanish or vice versa. The proximity of the United States to Mexico produces a change in the Spanish spoken there. An example is the word car. In Mexico, people say carro. In South America, on the other hand, people say auto. In Spain, people say coche. Here are just a few examples of Spanish words that you already know because English uses them too. You've been to a rodeo or a fiesta. You've probably taken a siesta or two. You probably know at least one señorita. And you surely have an amigo. Maybe you'll even see him mañana. You already know the names of places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, La Jolla, Florida, and Puerto Rico. You've eaten a tortilla, a taco, or a burrito. You fancy the tango, the bolero, or the rumba. Or you may dance the cumbia. You have a friend named Juanita, Anita, or Clara. Reciting your ABCs. Correct pronunciation is key to avoiding misunderstandings. The following sections present some basic guidelines for proper pronunciation. Next to the Spanish words throughout this book, the pronunciation is in parentheses, which we call pronunciation brackets. Within the pronunciation brackets, we separate all the words that have more than one syllable with a hyphen, like this, ka, sa. So it's K-A-H with an underline, and then the hyphen, and then S-A-H, so showing that ka is emphasized. Ka, sa. An underlined syllable within pronunciation brackets tells you to accent or stress that syllable. We say much more about stress later in this chapter. In the meantime, don't let yourself get stressed out. Pardon the pun. We explain each part of the language separately, and the pieces will quickly fall into place. Promise. In the following section, we comment on some letters of the alphabet from the Spanish point of view. The aim is to help you to understand Spanish pronunciations. Here is the basic Spanish alphabet and its pronunciation. A is A. B is B. C is C. D is D. E is E. F is F. G is G. H is H. E is I. J is J. K is K. L is L. M is M. N is N. N is, well, N. It's a special letter with the little tilde over it and an N. O is O. P is P. Q is Q. R is R. S is S. T is T. U is U. V is B. W is W. X is X. Y is Y. Z is Z. Spanish also includes some double letters in its alphabet. Che, Y, and R, a trilled R. We don't go through every letter of the alphabet in the sections that follow, only those that you use differently in Spanish than in English. The differences can lie in pronunciation, the way they look, and the fact that you seldom see the letters, or that you don't pronounce them at all. Now, I'm going to display a card here for you guys to see the Spanish alphabet, and I will be back to reading the next part, which is consonants. So, consonants tend to sound the same in English and Spanish. We explain the few differences that you can find. Inside the Spanish-speaking world itself, you'll find that consonants may be pronounced differently in English. For example, in Spain, the consonant Z is pronounced like the TH in the English word thesis. Latin Americans don't use this sound. In all 19 Spanish-speaking countries on this hemisphere, Z and S sound the same. In the Spanish speaker's mind, a consonant is any sound that needs to have a vowel next to it when you pronounce it. For example, saying the letter T by itself may be difficult for a Spanish speaker. To the Spanish ear, pronouncing T sounds like te. Likewise, the Spanish speaker says ese when pronouncing the letter S. Only a few consonants in Spanish differ from their English counterparts. The following sections look more closely at the behavior and pronunciation of these consonants. The letter K. In Spanish, the letter K is used only in words that have their origin in foreign languages. More often than not, this letter is seen in kilo, meaning thousand in Greek. An example is kilometro, 1,000-meter measure for distance. The letter H. In Spanish, the letter H is always mute. That's it. The pronunciation brackets throughout this book often include the letter H. These H's generally signal certain vowel sounds, which we cover later in this chapter. In the pronunciation brackets, the Spanish H simply doesn't appear because it's mute. Following are some examples of the Spanish 8. Hueyapan, the name of a village in Mexico. Hueso, bone. Huevo, egg. The letter J. The consonant J sounds like a guttural H. Normally you say H quite softly, as though you were just breathing out. Now say your H, but gently raise the back of your tongue, as if you were saying K. Push the air out real hard, and you'll get the sound. Try it. There, it sounds like you are gargling, doesn't it? To signal that you need to make this sound, we use a capital letter H within the pronunciation brackets. Now try to sound out these words. Cajamarca. Cajamarca. The name of a city in Peru. Cajete. Cajeta. A delicious thick sauce made of milk and sugar. Cajon. Big box. Jadeo. Panting. Gijon. The name of a city in Spain. Jota. The Spanish name for the letter J. Also the name of a folk dance in Spain. Tijera, scissors. The letter C. The letter C. In front of the vowels A, O, and U sounds like the English K. We use the small K in pronunciation brackets to signal this sound. Following are some examples. Acabar, to finish. Café, coffee. Casa, house. Ocaso, sunset. When the letter C is in front of the vowels E and I, it sounds like the English S. In the pronunciation brackets, we signal this sound as a lowercase s. Following are some examples. Acero, steel. Cero, zero. Cine, cinema. In much of Spain, primarily the north and central parts, the letter C is pronounced like the TH in thanks when placed before the vowels E and I. Take a drink. We're working well. The letters S and Z. In Latin American Spanish, the letters S and Z always sound like the English letter S. We use the letter S, in lowercase, in the pronunciation brackets to signal this sound. Following are some examples. Asiento, seat. Sol, sun. Sarzula, Sarzula, Zarzuela. Sorry, I'm not familiar with that word. Zarzuela, Spanish-style operetta. I will get more familiar with that word with you all, and probably a lot of other words. In Spain, Z also has the sound of the TH in thanks, rather than the S sound prevalent in Latin America. The letters B and V. The letters B and V are pronounced the same. The. Hold up. All right. The letters B and V. The letters B and V are pronounced the same, the sound being somewhere in between the two letters. This in between is a fuzzy, bland sound, closer to V than B. If you position your lips and teeth to make a V sound and then try to make a B sound, you'll have it. To remind you to make this sound, we use BV in lowercase in our pronunciation brackets for both B and V. Here are some examples. Cabeza, head. Vida, life. Violin, violin. The letter Q. Spanish doesn't use the letter K very much. When the language wants a K sound in front of the vowels E and I, it unfolds the letter combination QU. So when you see the word queso, you immediately know that you say the K sound. Here are some examples in the Spanish of the Spanish letter Q, which we indicate by the letter lowercase k in pronunciation brackets. Coquimbo, Coquimbo, Paquete. Coquimbo is apparently a city in Chile. Paquete, package. Pequeño, small. Tequila, Mexican liquor. Yay, tequila. The letter G. In Spanish, the letter G has a double personality, like the letter C. When you combine the letter G with a consonant, or when you see it in front of the vowels A, O, and U, it sounds like the G in goose. Here are some examples. Begonia, a begonia. Gato, cat. Gracias, thank you. Pegado, paid for. The G changes personality in front of the vowels E and I. It sounds like the Spanish J, which we signal with the capital H in our pronunciation brackets. Agenda, agenda. Gerenta, manager. To hear the sound G, as in goat, in front of the vowels E and I, you must insert a U, making GUE and GUI. To remind you to make the goat sound, no, not meh, but G, we use lowercase gh in our pronunciation brackets. For example, guia, guide. Guiño, wink. Hold on. Guerra, war. I don't think I pronounced that last one right. I'm trying. Double consonants. Spanish has two double consonants, double L and double R. They are considered a singular letter, and each has a singular sound. Because these consonants are considered singular, they stick together when you separate syllables. For example, the word calle, street, appears as CA. Give me a moment. For example, the word calle, street, appears as CA-LLE, and torre, tower, separates into to-re. The letter LL, or ella. The LL consonant sounds like the Y in the English word yes, except in Argentina and Uruguay. Argentinians and Uruguayans pronounce this consonant as the sound that happens when you have your lips pursed to say S and then make the Z sound through them. Try it. Fun, isn't it? But really, the sound isn't that difficult to make, because you can find this English equivalent in words like measure and pleasure. The way you say those S sounds is exactly how the LL sound is pronounced in Argentina and Uruguay. Throughout this book, we use the sound like the English Y in the word yes, which is how ella is pronounced in 18 of the 20 Spanish-speaking countries. In the pronunciation brackets, we use lowercase y to signal this sound. Now try the ella sound using the Y sound in the following examples. Brillo, shine. Llama, flame, also the name of an animal in Peru. Llama. Lluvia, rain. The letter RR. R. The R sounds like a strongly rolled R. In fact, every R is strongly rolled in Spanish, but the double one is the real winner. To roll an R, curl your tongue against the roof of your mouth. As you finish the R sound, it should trill. An easy way to make this sound is to say the letter R as though you were pretending to sound like an outboard motor. There, you have it. Spanish speakers take special pleasure in rolling their R's. The fun thing about R is that no words begin with it. Isn't that a relief? In pronunciation brackets, we simply signal this sound as double R. Let's play with these words. Hold on. Carrera, race, profession. Correo, mail, post. Terra, land. The letter Y. This letter represents sounds that are very similar to those of ella. The people of both Argentina and Uruguay pronounce this sound differently from the rest of Latin America. We advise that you pronounce it as the English Y in yes and you. In the pronunciation brackets, we signal this sound as a lowercase y. Following are some examples. Playa, beach. Llama, yolk, also fingertip. Yoda, yodo, yodo, iodine. In Spanish, the letter Y is never a vowel, always a consonant. The letter ñ. When you see a wiggly line on top of the letter N that looks like, well, yeah. Use the NY sound that you use for the English word canyon. The wiggly line is called a tilde. In pronunciation brackets, we show this sound as lowercase ny. Following are some examples. Cuñado, brother-in-law. Mañana, tomorrow. Niña, girl. Vowels. If you want your Spanish to sound like a native's, you have to concentrate on your vowels. The biggest difference between English and Spanish is almost certainly in the way the vowels are written and pronounced. By now you may very well be you may be By now you may be well aware that one vowel in English can have more than one sound. Look, for instance, at fat and fate. Both words have the vowel A, but they're pronounced much differently from each other. The good news is that in Spanish, you always say the vowels one way and one way only. The upcoming sections discuss the 5 vowels, which are the only vowel sounds in Spanish. They are A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, and U. Spanish sees each of these vowels by itself and makes other sounds by combining the vowels in twos. As children, almost everybody sings their ABCs. In Spanish, the English A that starts off the song is pronounced A. The easiest way to remember how to pronounce the letter A in Spanish is to sing the chorus of the Christmas carol, Deck the Halls, to yourself. You remember the chorus, don't you? Fa la 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 la. We write this sound as lowercase ah in the pronunciation brackets. Following are some sample words to practice. Remember that you pronounce each and every A exactly the same way. Caracas, a city in Venezuela. Mapa, map. Guadalajara, a city in Mexico. The vowel E. To get an idea of how the Spanish E sounds, smile gently, open your mouth a bit, and say eh. The sound should be like the E in the English word pen. In our pronunciation brackets, the vowel appears as a lowercase eh. Pele, ragdoll, puppet. Pelo, hair. Seco, dry. The vowel I. In Spanish, the vowel I sounds like the EE in seen, but just a touch shorter. To give you an example, when English speakers say feet or street, the Spanish speaker hears what sounds almost like 2 I's. We signal this sound as lowercase ee in our pronunciation brackets. Following are some examples. Irritar, irritar, to irritate. Piña, pineapple. Pintar, to paint. The vowel O. The Spanish put their mouths in a rounded position, as if to breathe a kiss over a flower, and keeping it in that position to say O. It sounds like the O in floor, but a bit shorter. We signaled this sound as OH in the pronunciation brackets, lowercase OH. Try practicing the sound on these words. Coco, Orinoco, Orinoco, a river in Venezuela. Oruro, a city in Bolivia. Toronja, grapefruit. The vowel U. The 5th and last vowel in Spanish is the U, and it sounds like the oo in moon or raccoon, but just a touch shorter. Ooh. We think you've got it. We write this sound as OO lowercase in the pronunciation brackets. Here are some examples of the U sound. Cuna, cradle. Cunado, brother-in-law. Curcuma, turmeric. Curioso, curious. Fruta, fruit. Luna, moon. Tuna, prickle pear. Isn't it curioso that in Spanish, fruta is fruit and so is tuna? I have noticed that our video is getting a bit long, and it's an entire chapter. I will continue this chapter in our next video, and we will continue with diphthongs, pronunciation and stress, and basic phrases to know. Thank you for joining me today.